So most people ask me this question is, should I actually partner with someone else to buy my first storage facility? And I always say it depends, right? And so most self-storage investors don't fail because of lack of money or partnerships. They actually fail because of they don't know the right partnership. They don't have those hard conversations from the very beginning. So when someone buys or looks into buying their first facility, they get so excited about wanting to get that deal done that they'll do anything to get the deal done, versus you really need to have hard conversations. So sometimes it's great to partner on deals because commercial real estate, you have more money on the table to split and it makes sense versus residential. Now on the other side, we need to make sure that you have contrasting skill sets, right? So my partner should not be just like me. My partner needs to be exactly opposite of me so that we can actually move and groove and actually make and double our money. And so these are the questions that you really need to have is, do you want to have a partner because you're scared, right? And that is the real conversation is people are scared and they partner. And that's when people get into trouble because it's not the right partnership for them on their first facility. But I always say, I love partners. I think if you have the right partnership, you will go 10x, you'll go faster than actually moving at your own pace by yourself. But you need to make sure that it's aligned for you when buying your first facility. So when you're looking for a partner or when you want to buy your first facility, there is different components that you need to have in order to get the deal done. So number one is someone needs to find the deal and bring the deal to you. Number two, someone needs to be the operator, right, of that deal. Number three, someone needs to be really good at underwriting, right, to understand the numbers behind it. And then number four, someone needs to be the money partner or the capital player in that deal. And so you have these four different pieces that you need to move throughout the whole entire property. And so you need to figure out who is bringing what, and then how much do you want to split of that storage deal? How much equity do you want to give up for that skill set? And so I have in my self-storage school students, they talk about, some people bring money and some people are like, hey, Bree, I'm a dentist or a doctor. I have the money, but I don't want to operate. And so you've got students that are operators and deal finders. And so being able to pair people together like that and really set the precedence of being like, hey, we've talked about the hard things. We know how we're going to operate and our facility is going to be a success no matter what. And that is so important to do when you go into a partnership as well as buying your first cash flowing storage facility. So in my storage school, I've actually had a student that's like, hey, I'm interested in a partnership. She posted a deal and I actually pulled her to the side and I said, hey, you know what? I don't think you need a partner. And this is something that's so important for people to realize is sometimes you have the money. Sometimes you know you have the deal and she wants to be the operator. And so what does she need from a partner was nothing. And so I really brought that up to her because that's important to know is, are you just scared? And that's why you want to have a partner is to double down, or do you really need a partner to come in with that deal and split that type of equity? So how many no's do you need to get in order to buy your first facility? And so instead of there's a lot of positive and a lot of things that you can do, but I want to talk about what are things that can come up for you, right? And so in self-storage, I originally thought that I was going to buy and invest my first storage facility with my dad. So the no's that you're going to get before you finally get the yes to buy your first facility. And so I talk about this with my storage school students is that it is not always rainbows, right? I thought I was going to actually buy and invest for my first facility with my dad. It's know, like, and trust. I knew, he knew he had some capital. And so for 6 months, I was bringing deals to him and he was constantly saying no, no, this is not good enough. And finally, I came to a realization that his risk tolerance was very different than mine risk tolerance. And he never, a deal would never be good enough because he didn't understand, what it took to, what is the facility worth and all these different pieces. And so that was a big wake-up call for me where I spun my wheels. And so that allowed me to be like, okay, I've got to go find a room of other storage owners and investors who are just like me, who are ready to go, want to operate, want to take some risk, and want to buy a facility and, better their lives. And so I actually went to a conference, and that is actually how I met two of my business partners today, was randomly at a conference in line together. And so after that conference, we actually continued that, we followed up. And this is the magic between this, is being able to go to a conference, learn, but network, and then follow up to find those partners, the right people in your spaces. And so we actually ended up buying a deal together. I thought I'd be the one to bring the deal. Nope, I had my partner bring that deal to us. And we, within like 2 days, decided we were going to be partners. We asked the hard questions, signed the letter of intent, and that is how we bought the first storage facility. But going through a lot of ups and downs, and I think the interesting part about this in the partnership is trust. Right? And knowing, will your partners have your back when things happen? And the very first time I was pregnant, I was like 6 weeks until I was due. And my business partners were like, you know what, we're gonna go do due diligence, which is like a really important part of saying yes or no to a deal. And I actually had to take the back seat and not do that trip. And I had to trust them. And that was a big part for me as a type A driver, where I was bringing money into this deal. I was signing away my house. And so we laugh now because if I would have went, I would have had a Louisiana baby. But to that point is you don't have to buy your first facility by yourself, right? And you don't have to do it by yourself. You can do it with other people, potential partners, as well as being in the room with the right investors. And so that was something that I really had to learn, is to take a step back and decrease that, control, and trust that I knew that my partners would have my back. And so I wanted to share this because there is always those ups and downs. I am so grateful for my partners because they compliment me, and they're every thick and thin. When things happen, we get together and we have a vote. We have 3 people in a $3.1 million deal, and we vote. If it's 2 to 1, it goes in one direction. And so it's a really nice equilibrium balance between, what we want to have happen and then what needs to happen to make the business successful, no matter where we are at in our lives. So very grateful for partnerships, and I really believe them. If you partner with the right people that have complementary skill sets, you can go so much further. So when I first got into self-storage, there wasn't all these different programs in YouTube University. And so I think the biggest part that, I learned was being relentless, right, in your dream to go after it. And no matter who said what to you, you kept moving, right? And so I had multiple times where my mom would say, Bree, having a brand new baby girl, is this worth it? Like, is this worth it to you, to not have a maternity leave and to write the SBA plan with Kaya, my girl, strapped to my chest when I didn't know if it was 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. And so I would consistently hear that. And also at the same point, I knew deep down inside, like, I wanted more. And if I didn't do it now, 2 years later, it would just be the same type of hard, right? So I thought, okay, stagnation doesn't feel good, but growth feels good. And that's what I wanted. So I pursued it anyways. And it was hard. It was very hard to buy your first facility. And I say it always is the hardest. Like, people say buying your first facility is the hardest because of so many things that you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so being able to, I think have an understanding of not knowing where I was going and doing it anyways, I had to sign away my house, right? So getting an SBA loan for $3 million versus $300,000 for my first house, just add one more zero, was absolutely frightening. And when I signed that document, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. Like, there was a time and moment where I knew, I signed away my house, collateral. They also asked me for life insurance, like on myself. So if anything happened, that they would, have some collateral in return. And so it really was putting all my eggs in one basket and being relentless with getting this deal done. And I'm so glad that I went through these different hoops. And this is definitely something that I teach in storage school, is that there's going to be multiple times throughout a closing of a facility that things will pop up that you don't know, you haven't had, that experience before. And how are you going to move through it, right? And are you going to stay to that pathway of finalizing that deal? Or are you going to throw up your hands and say, it's not worth it, right? So I wanted to share you guys there's a type of hard, but what that has afforded me is over $6 million worth of self-storage facilities within 3 years. And we're constantly growing. And in addition to that, it is life freedom, right? It is financial life freedom, life options. It's about not having to go to a W-2 job and think about where my money is going to come from. I have very stable income from my storage facilities that are very predictable, in addition to a net worth that is constantly increasing over time. And so I think when you think about being smart and taking on risks, yes, there are risks, they're calculated risks. And without the risks, everyone would do it. right? So thinking about what would your life look like in 5 years if you said yes to buying your first facility and then your second. And so that is the biggest takeaway, I think, is, what would your life look like? And then do you have the tenacity to go out there and buy your first facility and operate it and go do it again? And so making sure, in order to do that, is finding the right people to surround yourself by. And that is why I started self-storage school. Was people kept saying hey, how are you buying a seller financing deal? And how is that cash flowing? And how are you operating it at peak spot? And so that is how storage school started, was being able to have these deal flows, partner with other people. And now they don't know what they don't know, but they have someone to help, right? To bring those questions to. And so if you're interested in not having to do your first facility alone, definitely send me the word school below. You can apply and we'll jump on a call and see if it's a good fit.